Being able to pick up and carry any item, sword, weapon, or whatever it may be in Roblox is a key part of any game, and it's a key feature that you need to include if you want to make a successful Roblox game. So I'm going to quickly go over how to make a really simple inventory system that allows you to pick up any item you want, any model, any part, and get it working in your inventory. Let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need is you're going to need the actual model or part that's going to be your item. And this has to be what's called a tool inside of Roblox. And inside of Roblox, we have a bunch of different things like parts, scripts, folders. In order to have something in your inventory that you're going to hold in your hand, it has to be a tool. So if you find a model off of the marketplace that's not a tool, you can just take the parts and the models from inside of it and then put it inside of a tool, and it'll be able to be picked up and put in your inventory. But that's just the first step. The second step is you're going to have one part that's called the handle. And this is where the player is actually going to grab it. So this handle has to be somewhere in the center. I have the spine of this book here as the handle. You can make it smaller to make it more precise, or however you want to do that, but it has to be called handle in order for it to work. The tool can be called whatever you want, but this has to be called handle. And then the next step is once you have your handle, all of the parts have to be unanchored. So there's a setting in here to anchor it. None of them can be anchored, or else your player is going to be set to this tool part, whatever it may be, and then it's just going to stay on the floor and it's going to stay holding it and you won't be able to move. So everything has to be unanchored. Now, in order for that everything to stick together, you have to create well constraints between every single one of the parts. So I'm going to delete all of these and I'm going to show you quickly how to do it, going through a little bit of time lapse. But basically, all you have to do is click this plus button right here and type in weld, and it'll give you weld constraints, and touch interest will come with it as well. And then you'll scroll down to part 0 and part 1. Part 0 has to be the handle, and then part 1 has to be whatever part is this part you're attaching to. And then you're going to do that for every single part you have. Now, once this is done, we're going to want some way to be able to actually pick up this tool. So I'm going to add what's called a proximity prompt under one of the parts. This can be any of the parts. And then what I like to do, I unchecked requires line of sight. That way it can be any one of these parts. And when the player approaches it, it will automatically display that prompt. Now, the player will also pick it up if it touches the handle, but this is an easier way, especially for a larger item, to give more of an area for the player to pick it up. And then also we have to add a script, and I'm going to go over that script in just a second, and it'll be down in the comments below in case you want to copy it or use it for a reference. So that's basically it for everything on the workspace side. Now let's go into the script to see what we need to do. Okay, so for the first thing, we're going to have to set up our first variables. So I'm going to have a prompt for our proximity prompt, and I'm just going to set it to the parent of the script because the script is underneath the proximity prompt. I'm also going to have a object for the logbook itself. And what I'm going to use for this is I'm going to find the first ancestor. So the parent of this, that's called logbook. And this will basically just go all the way up the chain until it finds logbook. And this allows us to change where the script might be placed later on. And then I'm going to add 2 services into our game. The player service is going to be first. And we're going to get that using this. And then we're also going to use the run service as well. And this will allow us to do a few certain things that I will explain once we code them out. And it's going to be the run service. Okay, now we're going to have 2 main functions. So we're first going to have the function that's whenever the prompt is triggered, this is going to run. So we're going to use the proximity prompt here and connect it to a function. And it's going to have whatever player triggers it is going to be returned. And that's nice and easy. And then we're going to have a logbook whenever the ancestry changed. So whenever the parent of this logbook changed, we're going to do a few things. And I'll explain that again as we get down to it. So we're going to have the child and then the new parent for this object. And it's really easy up here. All we have to do is we have to set the parent to be the player's backpack. And this is going to put it into the inventory. So this is really easy right here. So that's really all we have to do. If we click play now, we'll see that we're actually able to pick it up pretty easily. As you can see, it's in our hand, but the main issue is that this prompt is still here. So the reason why we have that ancestry change function is because we want to change this prompt right here to disappear. So we're going to stop playing the game and we're going to go back to the script. And basically what we want to do is once the object becomes parented by the player, we no longer want that prompt to display, but if they drop it or if it somehow gets released from the player, we want that prompt to come back. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and see if this is a player. So we're going to do local player and we're going to use that player service, get player from character, and see if it's getting parented. This is going to be, it would be parented to the player whenever it gets put into the inventory when it's being held. So whenever the player is holding it, that's when it's going to be a child of the player. However, the other thing it could be a child of is the backpack, as we set up before. And so it's not directly a child of the parent, so it's not going to show up, new parent is not going to show up as being a player. However, if the new parent is a backpack, we're just going to set the prompt enabled. We're going to set it to false, so it no longer displays. And we're going to do the same thing if the player exists, then that means that the item is now parented to the player. We're also going to set the prompt enable to false here because we don't want it to display. And then the last thing we're going to do, if it's not parented to either one of these, it means it's being released back into the world. So we're going to say prompt enabled and we're going to set that to true. And then let's play this to see what this looks like. So we're going to go over, we're going to pick it up. If we pick it up and we hold it, you can see that the logbook no longer has that prompt going over it. However, if we try and get rid of it, it comes right back into our hands. So we can't really test if the prompt gets re-enabled. So we're going to have to fix that real quick. In order to do that, if we go back to our script, we're going to be doing that if it gets parented back to the workspace. So that's what happens when you drop an item. The new parent becomes the workspace. So we're going to look and see if the new parent is equal to game.workspace. Then basically what we're going to do, we're just going to teleport the book a little bit away from the player so it's not being picked up. And here's how we're going to do that. We're going to first get the handle of our tool. And that should be really easy. We're going to use the find first child function to do that. And it's going to be the child called handle because there should only be one because it's a tool. And then we're going to basically just do a little check. If the handle exists and the handle is a base part, then we know we're in the right spot. Then what we're going to do is we're going to move. I didn't put the last parenthesis that I needed there. If it is, then we're just going to move it a little bit. So we're going to get the C frame of the handle, which allows us to set the position. And we're going to set it to be the current position plus a little bit of a change in the up direction, the X and Y direction. So it'll go up a little bit and it'll go forward in the X a little bit, along with the Z. And this is just going to move it away from the player to just make sure that it won't be able to be instantly picked up. And then we're going to change its velocity to be 0. This way, again, it resets everything and nothing can go wrong with it being dropped. It's just a little bit of a safety feature that's probably not necessary, but it's good to have. So with that in mind now, we should be able to go over and we should just be able to pick up our logbook and drop it into the ground. And as you can see, it teleports away and the prompt comes back up. And as you can see, you can still touch it and it'll go back into your inventory. But this is pretty good. This is how you make a very simple tool that can go into your inventory. You can drop it. You can use a proximity prompt to pick it up. And yeah, that's how you get a simple inventory system working. If you have any questions, put them down below in the comments. And this is all being done in my game called Submerged Scoundrels, which is a submarine pirate game. So if you're at all interested, subscribe to this channel, follow along to the devlogs for those, and join the Discord for this really cool pirate game in my comments below. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.